Chosen one, something has shifted in the heavenly realm, and you're about to discover why every door that was slammed shut is now cracking open. Don't scroll away from this. Not now. Your spirit led you here because there's a divine appointment waiting in these next few minutes. Have you noticed how the attacks have been more intense lately, yet somehow you're still standing stronger than ever? That's not coincidence. That's confirmation that heaven has released something specific over your life. Ignore this message, and you'll miss understanding the very protection that's been covering you when you didn't even know you needed it. You are not here by accident. What's coming in this message will reveal exactly why your enemies have been more desperate and your breakthroughs more powerful. But first, here's what you need to understand. The moment you accepted your calling, a divine assignment was released that most people never get to see. Your guardian isn't just watching. They're actively moving pieces on a chessboard you can't even see yet. Take the first step right now. Hit the like button to declare, "I'm ready to receive this divine message." It takes just a second, but helps. Spread this word to thousands of other chosen ones who need it right now. Comment 777 if you're declaring today as the day you step into divine abundance, favor, and breakthrough. What's on your heart today? Leave your prayer request in the comments and then take a moment to lift someone else up with words of encouragement. When you share your prayer, others will intercede for you. When you pray for someone else, God moves in ways you never imagined. And to all our channel members, thank you for your continued support and faith. May God return it to you in peace, provision, and divine favor. There's something so incredibly crucial, something the enemy truly hopes you never quite grasp, something he works tirelessly to obscure from your vision and whisper doubts into your ear about. Because if you did fully embrace this profound, liberating truth, it would radically transform every single facet of your life, from the smallest daily decision to the grandest spiritual calling. It's this profound truth, whispered by the Spirit directly to the deepest chambers of your heart. If only we quiet ourselves enough to hear it. If only we lean in with an open and trusting spirit. Every single closed door you faced in your life, every single one that left you feeling bewildered, confused, or utterly heartbroken, wasn't a rejection from the loving, compassionate heart of God. No, dear one, that piercing sting you felt, that sense of being overlooked, or simply not good enough, was actually a shield, intricately crafted with divine hands, forged in the very crucible of heaven's wisdom and love. Think about that for a moment. Let that truth settle deep into the tender, often wounded places of your spirit. Not a sign that you weren't worthy, not evidence that your earnest, tear-soaked prayers had somehow bounced off the ceiling of heaven. Unheard, unacknowledged, but a protective barrier, a strong, invisible wall of grace, meticulously placed by an all-knowing Father to keep you safe from something you couldn't even see, a danger you weren't even aware was lurking just beyond your limited human perception. It's so much like when you pour your heart and soul into an application for a job you desperately, passionately want, one that you've dreamt of for ages. You imagine your whole future unfolding there, every detail perfectly aligning, and then the devastating email arrives. We've decided to move forward with other candidates. The immediate sharp sting is undeniable rejection, a crushing blow to your hopes. But what if, just what if, that job, though outwardly appealing, was going to put you in a truly toxic, soul-sapping environment? One that would slowly, subtly, almost imperceptibly erode your spirit, dim your inner light, and steal your joy. What if it was going to lead you down a career path that, while outwardly successful and impressive to others, was never truly aligned with the unique, divine purpose God breathed into your very being, the unique imprint He placed on your soul? That closed door, though painful and bewildering in the moment, was God's tender, loving protection, a profound no that whispered a louder, more expansive yes to your true destiny, to a path of greater alignment and peace. He sees the full, sprawling landscape of your life, every winding road, every hidden valley, every potential pitfall, while we, in our limited human perspective, only see the narrow path directly in front of us, often longing for what appears brightest, without understanding its true nature. His love is too deep to let us walk into harm's way, when he can lovingly redirect our steps. And those agonizing delays, beloved, the seasons of waiting that felt endless, stretching out like a vast desert before you, the crushing sensation of being stuck in a spiritual or emotional limbo, the moments where you cried out to the heavens with a raw, aching heart, "Why isn't this happening for me? Why am I not moving forward? Am I forgotten?" Those weren't setbacks, not truly. They were, in the truest sense, divine acceleration in disguise, a masterful orchestration by the very hand of God. Heaven itself was actually holding you back, carefully, lovingly, with immense wisdom and foresight, for just long enough. Just enough time for a hidden danger to pass by completely, for the unseen currents of life, the spiritual tides and winds, to shift into perfect alignment, for a critical, foundational piece of your destiny to finally click perfectly into place. Like intricately designed cogs in a magnificent clock, each gear waiting for its precise moment to turn. It's so much like when you're driving, rushing to an important appointment, your mind already calculating the minutes, and you hit a red light that feels incredibly frustrating, a needless interruption to your momentum, a vexing pause in your carefully planned journey. But just around that corner, beyond your line of sight, obscured by buildings or trees, there was an accident, a serious collision, a chaotic scene that you would have been tragically involved in had you not been stopped, precisely at that moment, by that seemingly inconvenient light. That seemingly inconvenient delay, that frustrating pause, saved you, preserving you for your true destination. That's the very heart of what God does for us, working in ways that defy our linear understanding, in mysteries we can barely comprehend. He's not teasing you with promises, not withholding good from you out of some cosmic whim. He's preparing you with utmost care, refining your character, building your capacity, and simultaneously, he's preparing the very way for you, clearing obstacles you don't even know exist, aligning circumstances you couldn't possibly manipulate. He sees the full, glorious tapestry of your life, every intricate thread, every knot, every potential snag, and he guides your journey with meticulous, unwavering love, ensuring every step, even the seemingly halted ones, contributes to his perfect, beautiful design. What looked and felt so much like resistance in your life, that feeling of constantly pushing against an invisible wall, that disheartening sense of things being inexplicably harder than they should be, the sheer exhaustion of trying to force doors open that remained stubbornly, infuriatingly shut, no matter how much effort you exerted. That, my dear friend, was God actively building up a hedge around you. Not just any hedge, not a flimsy fence that could be easily breached or blown away, but one so thick, so strong, so divinely impenetrable, that even the fiercest, most overwhelming storm, the kind that would otherwise tear your life, your deepest hopes, your very spirit apart, leaving you broken and desolate, couldn't possibly penetrate it. He was creating a sacred, safe space, a sanctuary you didn't even realize you were quietly thriving inside, shielded from unseen harm. Perhaps you just barely missed a flight, running late despite your best efforts, only to later hear the tragic news that it crashed, leaving you with a chilling realization of divine intervention, a visceral understanding that you were held back for a reason. Or maybe a relationship, one you desperately clung to with every fiber of your being, one you imagined your entire future with, ended abruptly and painfully, leaving you reeling, only for you to realize months or even years later, with a clarity that stung but ultimately liberated you, how truly toxic, draining and destructive it would have been to your soul, slowly, subtly draining your very life force, leaving you a shell of yourself. that persistent feeling of resistance, that no from the universe that felt so personal, so targeted, so unfair. That was God's tender yet firm hand, gently but resolutely, keeping you safe, guiding you toward a path of greater peace, deeper wholeness, and truer alignment, even when your heart questioned the wisdom of it all, even when your emotions rebelled against the discomfort. He is a good shepherd, always guarding his flock, always vigilant, always protecting his beloved sheep from the wolves we often cannot perceive. And sometimes those prayers that feel like they've gone unanswered, the ones you poured your entire heart into, often with tears mingling with your earnest, desperate words, only to be met with a deafening, crushing silence from above. Those, in a beautiful, divine paradox, are actually the loudest yes the heavens can give you, a resounding affirmation of God's protective love. We often experience divine protection as denial, as a painful withholding, especially when we can't see the spiritual battle that's raging above our heads, the cosmic forces at play, the intricate strategies of light against darkness that are far beyond our earthly comprehension and our limited perspective. It's incredibly hard to understand, isn't it, when you're only looking at your immediate circumstances, feeling the acute, searing pain of what seems to be a closed door, a shattered dream. You might be praying for a specific job, one that seems perfect on paper, ticking all your boxes, a certain relationship that promises companionship and fills a deep void, a particular path that looks like your ideal future, and God, in his infinite wisdom and perfect love, closes that door with a gentle but firm hand. You feel denied, rejected, forgotten, wondering if your faith was not enough. But what if he, with his omniscient gaze, saw the toxic, corrosive environment of that job, the destructive, soul-crushing nature of that relationship, or the spiritual dead end of that seemingly promising path, a detour that would lead you away from your true calling? His no to your immediate desire was truly a resounding yes to your well-being, your deepest peace, your ultimate good, even if it meant a moment of acute pain and profound disappointment for you. It takes immense trust, a profound surrender of our limited understanding, a deep faith that goes beyond feeling, to truly believe that, especially when your heart is hurting and your vision is clouded by disappointment, grief, or confusion. As Isaiah 55:8-9 so beautifully reminds us, a truth echoed through the ages. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. His perspective is eternally expansive, while ours is often fleeting and bound by the present moment. Think for a moment about the incredible, inspiring, and often heartbreaking story of Joseph in the Bible. His life was, for what seemed like an eternity, one devastating rejection after another, wasn't it? Betrayed by his own flesh and blood, his brothers thrown into a desolate, barren pit, sold into the ignominy and dehumanization of slavery, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, condemned to the dim, forgotten confines of a prison cell, year after agonizing year. Every single shut door, every seemingly unfair turn of events, every step down what appeared to be a dead-end road, miraculously led him closer to the palace, not further away from his divine destiny. It looked from every earthly vantage point like he was constantly losing ground, stripped of everything, his dreams crushed. But he was actually gaining it, strategically placed by God, with a masterful hidden hand for a future he couldn't possibly imagine at the time, a future of profound impact and unparalleled leadership. He kept his integrity intact. He clung fiercely to his faith in the darkest hours, choosing honor even in the face of injustice. And God, in his miraculous sovereign way, used every single one of those hardships, every injustice, every season of obscurity, for his ultimate good and for the good of entire nations, saving them from famine. That's just how God moves. often in ways that defy our human logic, often in paradoxes that challenge our understanding. He often hides you in plain sight, beloved, wrapping you in a favor so subtle, so quietly powerful, that your enemies, blinded by their own limited vision and earthly ambition, and even sometimes you yourself, in your seasons of waiting and feeling overlooked, can't quite see it. They don't recognize the divine hand on your life, the anointing, the preparation, the deep cultivation of character, until you're standing right in the middle of your breakthrough, elevated and ready for what He has divinely ordained for you. It's a quiet work, a slow, deep cultivation of your spirit, your gifts, your resilience, until it's a sudden, undeniable revelation, a moment of profound unveiling that leaves everyone, including you, in awe of His majesty and His perfect timing. You know, some of the greatest, most profound breakthroughs we experience in our spiritual journeys don't come when we're frantically searching for answers, desperately trying to figure everything out, wrestling with every detail until our minds are exhausted and our spirits are weary. They actually come when we stop the striving, when we release the need to control, when we finally surrender our limited intellect and start simply sitting with revelation. They come when we allow God's truth, like a gentle, life-giving rain, to settle in, to truly sink deep into the thirsty soil of our spirit, allowing His wisdom to unfold at His perfect pace, revealing itself in quiet, intimate moments of understanding, often in the stillness. If what I'm sharing with you right now deeply resonates, if it feels like a light bulb just went off in the depths of your understanding, illuminating forgotten corners of your heart, and you're hungry, truly hungry for more of this kind of transformative insight, for more moments of profound spiritual clarity, then the 10 Hidden Truths of Jesus parables is absolutely your next essential step. It's a short but incredibly powerful ebook that unlocks practical spirit-led truths specifically about navigating your finances with divine wisdom, about experiencing profound healing in your body and soul, and about finding real emotional clarity in your life, areas where we often grapple with confusion, struggle, and feel lost. It's not abstract theology, far from it. It's about how these timeless, profound truths from Jesus' own teachings apply directly to your everyday circumstances, offering a tangible, spirit-led roadmap to navigate them with grace, divine wisdom, and unshakable faith. The link to get your copy, to embark on this deeper journey of understanding and transformation, is right there in the first comment below this video. But please know, with a heart of urgency, it's only available for a limited time. So don't miss out on this extraordinary opportunity to go deeper into the heart of God's wisdom for your life and unlock a new level of spiritual freedom. Now, let's talk about the path forward, a truly practical roadmap to walking in this truth and truly living it out, not just intellectually understanding it or acknowledging it as a nice idea, but embodying it with every step you take, allowing it to permeate your daily existence. First, and perhaps most importantly, we have to confront head-on this really persistent, insidious lie that closed doors somehow mean you're forgotten, that God has overlooked you in the grand scheme of things, that your name isn't on His list, that you're simply not chosen. That simply isn't true. It's a cunning whisper from the enemy, meant to steal your hope, diminish your spirit, and keep you trapped in a cycle of doubt and despair. In fact, the glorious truth, a beacon of hope for every precious soul, is that God singles out those He loves, those He has chosen for a specific purpose, for double honor, for special favor, for a divine blessing that often comes after seasons of perceived lack, after periods of feeling unseen. He sees you, dear one. He knows you intimately, profoundly, meticulously. Every hair on your head, every beat of your heart, every longing of your soul, every silent prayer you've uttered. He has a plan for you, a good one, filled with hope and a future, as Jeremiah 29:11 so beautifully tells us. a plan to prosper you and not to harm you. Just think about Esther. She was an orphan, a young woman living in hiding, stripped of her identity, seemingly insignificant in the grand, tumultuous scheme of things, far from the halls of power, facing a closed door to her own identity and freedom, grappling with a deep sense of powerlessness and vulnerability. Yet God had a mighty, sovereign purpose for her, weaving her into a tapestry far larger than she could comprehend, a story of salvation for an entire people. Her time of being hidden, of being prepared in obscurity, in quiet refinement, became the absolute catalyst for the deliverance of an entire nation from annihilation. She wasn't forgotten. She was being strategically positioned, groomed in secret for a pivotal, history-making moment. God often uses these seasons of obscurity, these periods where we feel unseen, unheard, and overlooked by the world, to cultivate greatness within us, to refine our character, to deepen our faith, preparing you for a stage far bigger, far more impactful than you could ever imagine, a calling that requires a foundation built in the quiet places. You might feel overlooked now, a quiet whisper, in a noisy, clamoring world, but God is meticulously crafting your story for a moment of profound impact, a divine revealing. He's not ignoring you. He's investing in you, growing you, readying you for the beautiful, spectacular unfolding of His perfect will. Next, I want you to take a really honest, courageous inventory of the patterns you keep repeating in your life, the cycles that seem to endlessly play out, trapping you in familiar, uncomfortable loops. You know those situations, those persistent obstacles that keep popping up like weeds, those same frustrations that seem to recur again and again, like unwelcome guests at your door, draining your energy. If you're seeing the same obstacle, the same type of challenge, the same kind of relational struggle, the same financial ceiling, it's not a coincidence. It's not just bad luck or fate working against you. It's actually an invitation, a divine opportunity lovingly extended by the Spirit to break the agreement with old mindsets, old beliefs, old narratives you've bought into, old coping mechanisms that were never truly yours in the first place, never rooted in God's truth about your identity and worth. Maybe it's a pattern of self-sabotage that undermines every attempt at success, pulling the rug out from under yourself just as you're about to achieve a breakthrough. Or perhaps it's attracting the same kind of unhealthy, draining relationships that leave you feeling empty, unfulfilled, and unseen, or constantly feeling stuck in your finances, watching prosperity slip through your fingers no matter how hard you work. These patterns are often deeply rooted in lies we've believed about ourselves, about our worthiness, about God's character, or even just old, outdated coping mechanisms we developed to survive past hurts, but which no longer serve our highest good or divine purpose. It's time right now to identify them, to call them out for what they are, the enemy's whispers, the world's limitations, not God's truth for your life, and consciously choose to disconnect from those agreements. Say it out loud with conviction, with the power of your God-given authority, no more. This is not my story anymore. I am breaking free from this cycle in the name of Jesus and stepping into the new path God has for me. Now, and this is truly crucial for your spiritual progress. For moving forward into the abundant life God has promised, you need to deliberately, actively silence every single voice, both the persistent, often condemning whispers in your own head, the voice of your inner critic, and the loud, often critical clamor outside of it, the discouraging opinions of others, that contradicts what God has spoken over you, what His word declares to be true about you. We are constantly bombarded with doubt, with negative self-talk that tells us we're unworthy, incapable, too flawed. We face the discouraging opinions of others who project their own limitations onto us, and we endure the relentless accusations of the enemy designed to paralyze us with fear and keep us bound. You're not good enough. You'll never succeed. God doesn't truly care about you. You made too many mistakes. You're unforgivable. You're too broken to be used. These are lies, pure and simple, insidious traps meant to keep you bound, to keep you small, to steal your spiritual inheritance. Remember the powerful story of Elijah in the cave? He had just experienced a massive, undeniable victory over the prophets of Baal, a miraculous display of God's power that utterly demolished the enemy. Yet immediately afterward, he was terrified, running for his life and hiding in a cave, feeling utterly defeated, alone, and convinced he was a failure. God didn't come in the earthquake, or the fire, or the strong wind. All that external noise and drama was a distraction from what truly mattered. The real change, the real shift in his assignment came after he tuned out all the loud, dramatic clamor and leaned in with desperate longing and raw vulnerability to that still, small voice of God, a gentle whisper that held immense, life-altering power. That quiet whisper carried his next instruction, his next step, his renewed purpose, reminding him he was not alone. It's the same for you, beloved. You have to train yourself with intention and discipline to distinguish God's loving, guiding voice from all the distracting noise, the fear-mongering, the critical chatter, the self-condemnation. Your breakthrough, your next divine instruction, is often found in that quiet, intimate place, listening for his specific, personal guidance for your life. A whisper that cuts through all the chaos. Coming up next, we're going to uncover the one habit you probably haven't even questioned, an invisible decision that has been unconsciously keeping you circling the same mountain, preventing you from moving forward into the promised land God has for you. Get ready for that profound insight. It will shift your perspective entirely. It's time, truly, to push past that urge, that insidious inclination, to delay that act of obedience you know deep down in your spirit is overdue. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That difficult conversation you've been avoiding, the one that feels heavy in your heart, stirring discomfort every time you think of it. That heartfelt apology you need to make to someone you've wronged, to mend a broken bridge, that bold step of faith you've been putting off, waiting for perfect clarity or perfect timing, that unhealthy habit you need to break for the sake of your well-being, your spiritual freedom, that forgiveness you need to extend to someone who hurt you, or even to yourself for past mistakes. That uncomfortable thing you know God has been gently, persistently nudging you to do, that quiet conviction in your soul. What you're stalling on, that very thing that brings a knot of anxiety to your stomach, that makes you want to turn away, is precisely where your freedom lives, where your chains will finally fall, where a new path will open before you. Your breakthrough, dear one, is truly on the other side of your obedience. Obedience always casts a longer, more impactful shadow than fear ever could. Fear that shrinks your world. Fear wants to keep you small, confined within the suffocating boundaries of your anxiety, safe and stuck in your comfort zone, which ironically often isn't comfortable at all, but rather a familiar prison. Obedience, however, calls you to step out, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels risky, even when you don't have all the answers laid out neatly before you, even when you can only see one step ahead. It's a courageous leap of faith into the vast, open, waiting arms of God, trusting His promise to catch you. So step into the uncomfortable. It's not just a suggestion, it's a powerful, transformative act of faith that unlocks new dimensions of God's grace, new levels of blessing. Kill, utterly eradicate, the habit of trying to manage what God has actually called you to release into His capable, mighty hands. We often cling to things, to situations, to relationships, to our own carefully constructed ideas of how things should be, trying desperately to control outcomes, trying to protect ourselves from potential hurt, trying to secure our own future. With our limited strength and foresight, when God is lovingly, patiently asking us to simply let go, to surrender, to trust him with the unknown, with the very fabric of our lives. Think about the profound, heart-wrenching story of Abraham at the altar with Isaac, the son of promise, the child of his old age, the tangible manifestation of a miracle. God asked him to lay down the very thing he loved most, the very promise of his future, the tangible manifestation of all his hopes and dreams, the willingness to lay down what you love most, your control, your comfort, your reputation, your past failures, your perfectly constructed idea of how things should be, your need for certainty. That's what will truly reveal what God had waiting for you all along, his magnificent, better plan, his divine provision. He had a ram in the thicket, a divine provision, a better sacrifice waiting there, unveiled only after Abraham demonstrated his full surrender. He often waits for us to demonstrate our full, unequivocal trust before he unveils the fullness of his provision, the glory of his alternative, the path we could not see. It's a test of faith, a moment of profound surrender, a stripping away of all that is not him. But the reward is always, always greater than anything we could have held on to, greater than anything we could have imagined. Coming up, there's a profound revelation that most people never quite reach, an act so misunderstood, so powerful, it can actually transform your barren wilderness into a gushing wellspring of life, a place of refreshing and abundance. It's a game changer, and it's inextricably tied to releasing control and embracing the divine. Now, let's get brutally honest for a moment, in the gentle, loving, non-judgmental presence of the Spirit. It's time to expose the hidden root of any resentment or disappointment you've been carrying around, like a heavy, unseen burden that weighs down your spirit, the stuff you've never truly addressed, never brought into the healing light of God's truth. You know, that lingering bitterness towards someone who wronged you, a wound that never truly healed. The quiet, simmering anger about how things turned out in your life. How a cherished dream shattered, leaving you feeling lost. That persistent feeling of being shortchanged, overlooked, or profoundly misunderstood. We often delude ourselves into thinking that time heals all spiritual wounds, that simply pushing them down and ignoring them will make them disappear. But it doesn't, not truly. Time just often buries them deeper, where they fester in the darkness, continuing to poison us from the inside out, subtly affecting our present relationships, our future choices, our capacity for joy, our ability to truly receive God's blessings. Surrendered honesty, truly acknowledging those raw, painful feelings before God in prayer, pouring out your heart to Him without reservation and, if appropriate, with trusted, wise people who can hold space for your vulnerability and pray with you. That's what brings real, deep, transformative healing. Be utterly real about what hurts, about the disappointments that linger like shadows, and bring it to the powerful, cleansing light of God's healing grace. And while you're engaged in that brave act of self-reflection, seek out where pride might be cleverly pretending to be protection in your life. Sometimes holding yourself back from vulnerability, from the courage to ask for help when you're struggling, from taking a risk that feels exposing and leaves you open to potential failure or judgment, from fully engaging in genuine heart-to-heart community, from admitting you're wrong and extending a heartfelt apology. That's just fear dressed up in a disguise of wisdom, a cunning masquerade. Pride whispers seductive lies into your ear. I don't need anyone. I'm self-sufficient. Or I can handle this on my own. I'm strong enough. Or it's safer to stay hidden, shielded from potential hurt and judgment, safer to keep my walls up. But God, in His profound wisdom and boundless love, calls us to humility and interdependence, to lean on Him, yes, with all our might, but also to lean on each other, to share our burdens and our joys, to live in authentic, vulnerable community. Don't let pride rob you of genuine connection, profound growth, and the vital support you need to flourish and step into your full potential. And listen very, very carefully to this next point, for it holds the key to unlocking stagnant seasons, to breaking free from cycles of inaction. Recommit to what you abandoned too soon. We all do it, don't we? We start something with great enthusiasm, with a burning passion, a new spiritual discipline, a cherished dream that stirs our soul, a promising relationship, a ministry, a creative project that felt so close to our heart, and then we hit a wall. We face a setback that feels insurmountable. We feel inadequate or overwhelmed, and we silently step away, letting it fade. Like Peter, after denying Jesus 3 times, after the crushing weight of his failure, after feeling utterly unworthy, he went back to fishing, to what was familiar and safe, to the mundane, thinking his calling was over, that he had forfeited his purpose. But Jesus didn't let him stay there. He lovingly called him back, tenderly restoring him by the shore, asking him, "Do you love me?" Peter eventually stepped back onto the water, not literally, but into his true assignment, his divine calling, after a night of profound failure, after feeling like a complete, utter failure. Redemption, dear heart, is often tied directly to those unfinished assignments, those dreams you put on a shelf, those callings you dismissed, waiting patiently for your renewed courage, for your renewed faith to pick them up again. What have you abandoned too soon? It might be waiting for you to pick it back up again with a fresh perspective, a renewed strength, and the undeniable power of God leading the way, breathing new life into it. Coming up, brace yourself, because now is when we confront a truth no one really likes to see, one that can be a bit uncomfortable to admit, but is absolutely essential for your breakthrough and for truly walking in God's highest, most magnificent will for your life. Sometimes it wasn't God's perfect divine plan at all that was directing your steps. It was, quite simply, your own preference. Ouch, right? That lands with a bit of a sting, doesn't it? It can be humbling to acknowledge. We often rationalize our deepest desires, sanctify our choices with spiritual language, and label them as God's will, when deep down in the quiet, honest chambers of our heart, we know it was simply what we wanted, what seemed easiest, what looked good to us. In the moment, what felt comfortable, what flattered our ego. We have our own meticulously drawn maps, our own preconceived ideas of how our life should unfold, even in our human arrogance, subtly telling God how to do his job, how to deliver his promises, how to orchestrate our blessings. But true transformation, real profound divine alignment, starts when you are willing to surrender your map, your detailed plan, your preferred outcome, for his compass, for his infallible guidance, even when the path is unseen, even when it leads in a direction you hadn't anticipated. Just like Saul on the Damascus Road, utterly convinced he was doing God's work by ferociously persecuting Christians, only to be utterly rerouted by a blinding light and a divine, unmistakable voice that stopped him dead in his tracks, radically changing his direction and his very identity. God can handle your preferences. He understands your desires. He hears every longing of your heart, but he also knows with perfect foresight what's truly best for you, what leads to abundant life, to ultimate joy, to true freedom, to your highest calling. Let him reroute your desires. Ask him to shape your heart to genuinely want what he wants for you, knowing that his desires for you are always higher, always better, always more fulfilling than anything you could conjure for yourself. It's a freeing, life-changing experience when you truly let go and say, with a surrendered, trusting heart, "Your will, not mine, be done." And finally, dear one, let go of needing to understand every single outcome, every minute detail, every why and how of God's unfolding plan. Our human minds crave logic, they demand certainty, they yearn to connect all the dots, to have a complete blueprint before we take a single trembling step forward. We want a clear, step-by-step instruction, manual for life, a guarantee of what lies ahead, a promise that there will be no detours or bumps in the road. But faith, true, living, vibrant faith, thrives precisely where logic fails, where the path isn't clear, where the future isn't guaranteed, and where things just don't make sense from a purely human perspective. Release the idol of certainty. It's a false god that keeps us paralyzed, waiting for perfect clarity that in this fallen world rarely, if ever, comes. Trusting God means being okay with not knowing the full picture, with walking forward even when it doesn't make logical sense to your natural mind, knowing with an unwavering, deeply rooted assurance that Romans 8:28 reminds us that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. He is orchestrating a magnificent masterpiece, a grand divine symphony, and we, with our limited vision, only see a small corner of the canvas or hear a single note. We must trust the conductor of the universe, and here's a deeply powerful, often overlooked step, one that can unlock immense spiritual release and usher in a season of profound healing. Bless those who have wounded you. This isn't about condoning their actions, not in the slightest, or even necessarily reconciling with them if that's not safe or wise. This profound act of blessing them is not primarily for their sake, believe it or not, though it may ultimately bless them in ways you cannot see. This profound act of blessing them is purely, entirely, absolutely for your sake. It severs the invisible tie, the energetic cord, the spiritual bond that has kept you walking in yesterday's shadow, bound by past hurts, by the corrosive poison of bitterness, by the heavy chains of anger, resentment, and unforgiveness. When you bless them, when you genuinely pray for their well-being, you release yourself from their grip, from the hold their actions, their words, their injustices have had over your emotional and spiritual landscape. You cut that cord. You declare your freedom. You reclaim your peace, your joy, and your spiritual authority. This is the moment. This is the sacred place where heaven truly starts to shift things powerfully in your favor, because you've moved past what was holding you back. You've released the very thing that imprisoned your spirit, preventing you from soaring. When you release, God releases. When you forgive, you are set free. Tonight, before you close your eyes and drift off to the peaceful embrace of sleep, I want you to say this prayer out loud, from the very deepest, most vulnerable part of your heart, truly believing it with every fiber of your being, allowing it to penetrate your soul. I release all fear. I release all doubt. I step into my divine purpose, and I trust that my miracle is already on its way, woven into the fabric of God's perfect, benevolent plan for me. Say it with conviction, with a faith that stirs the very heavens and echoes in the spiritual realms. Believe it deeply, profoundly. Let it sink into every part of your being, transforming your spirit from the inside out, shifting your perspective, renewing your hope. If you received this message today, if it resonated deep within your soul and stirred something new, something powerful and liberating in you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this message with someone who desperately needs to hear it, someone who is hurting, someone who feels unseen or forgotten, someone who is wrestling with closed doors or unanswered prayers. Testify in the comments below. Let us know what God is stirring in your heart, what breakthrough you're believing, for how these truths are changing your perspective and filling you with new hope and an unshakable peace. And then step back in awe and watch what God does next, not just for you, in your own precious life in ways that will astound you, but also through you, as you become a willing, radiant vessel for His incredible love, His profound wisdom, and His limitless power to others, touching lives and spreading hope. It's going to be an amazing, transformative journey as you embrace this new way of seeing your life, a life orchestrated by the loving, sovereign hand of the divine.